So here's something I forgot to mention during that road trip video we did just 2 days ago. And that's the fact that I used that road trip to collect some really valuable data on the Carb 4AGE MPG. I wanted to see exactly how much the MPG worsens when you actually do a bicarb conversion on your car engine. And here's what I found out. First, actually, I'm going to tell you how I did it, so you see that my methodology is pretty sound. So before I started out the road trip, I actually went to a gas station and I recorded the kilometers, in my case kilometers because I'm in Europe, the kilometers on my odometer, and here they are. What I did then is that I filled up my gas tank all the way, until I couldn't put any more fuel in it, and then I drove the car. I depleted around half of the fuel during the road trip, and then I stopped at a gas station again. I filled up my gas tank all the way again, and I recorded the kilometers on my odometer as well as the amount of liters I was able to fit into my gas tank. And what this gave me is, it gave me the distance that I crossed, and it gave me the amount of fuel that the car actually consumed during that distance. This enabled me to calculate exactly how much liters per 100 kilometers I was spending, on that road trip. And the result is 10.5 liters per 100 kilometers, which is 22.4 when you convert it into MPG. Now, something that I have to mention before we start interpreting those numbers as good or bad is the fact that I was driving pretty aggressively this time around, and because the engine was sound, the suspension was awesome, the brakes were awesome, everything was fully rebuilt, and it was really a joy to push that car hard. And I was, for most of the road trip, whenever there was an opportunity, I was above 50, 60, even 70% of throttle. Whenever I could, I was at 100% of the throttle opening, and yeah, I was pretty much in low gears almost all the time. So a pretty aggressive driving style. Now, why I did this road trip again is because 2 years ago I did the same road trip with my stock 4AGE rebuild, and I calculated my MPGs in the exact same way. So what this enables me to do is to compare data from the bicarb conversion to fuel consumption data from a stock 4AGE. And here's the result back from that road trip. You can see it actually in the old video. And the stock 4AGE did on the same stretch of road 33.6 MPG, which is around 7 liters per 100 kilometers. So that means that the bicarb conversion was actually 30% worse when it comes to fuel consumption. Now, before we interpret that again, is that we should take into account that the last time, 2 years ago, when I did that road trip, my brakes, I never did anything to them, 30-year-old garbage. Suspension, 30-year-old garbage. No alignment, a lot of steering wheel play. I didn't fix the play issue in my steering wheel column. So I was driving like a grandma because I was forced to. Above 50 miles per hour, the car felt super unsafe. So I was almost never pushing it. I pushed it just a few times, and then I got scared and I quit, and I was just basically cruising, which probably enabled that pretty respectable MPG number for the stock rebuild. So I decided that this isn't really a fair comparison for the bicarb conversion, so I did that road trip again yesterday, and then I did it again today. And here's what I did. I wanted to see how much the bicarb conversion can improve when it comes to MPG. So what I did the first time around when I repeated the road trip is that I drove like a grandma. The goal actually was to stay off the main jet, because the big consumption of fuel starts on the main jet. And if you can stay off the main jet and be around at a max of 30% throttle all the time, in as a high gear as you can actually improve your MPG. And I calculated it again this morning, and I wrote it down. I cannot remember all of these numbers. So by staying off the main jet and driving like a grandma, and never going above 30% throttle, I got a fuel consumption of 8.8 liters per 100 kilometers. which is 26.7 mpgs, which is only 20% worse than the stock. Now I decided to see if I could improve it even further. And I did the road trip again this morning. It's actually an easy, it's an easy drive, and it's really enjoyable. I didn't visit anything, I just drove back and forth. And before I did it this morning, I actually messed with my pilot jets. During the first 2 drives, there were 3 turns out. And this morning, I put them at 2.5 turns out. I did the road trip again, and I again drove like a grandma. And my MPG was, actually my liters per 100 kilometers were 8.4 liters per 100 kilometers, which is 28 mpg, which is only 16% worse than the stock 4AGE, which is pretty impressive. However, 2 things have to be said. Number 1, you need an adjustable, a tunable ignition ECU to be able to get this sort of MPG on a bike carb converted engine, because to be able to drive at very low throttle openings nicely, you have to have a lot of advance at these low throttle openings. Even the stock 4AGE map has a lot of advance there, but a bike carb, actually any sort of carbureted engine, needs even more advance right there. So I reprogrammed my map, my ignition map, to have a lot of advance in these low throttle openings to have, even better economy. Now, if you do not have enough advance there, your engine is going to struggle. It's going to actually, stutter. It's not going to feel nice at all at low throttle, and it's going to be forcing you to open the throttle more for it to, keep going. So a lot of advance there is really important. Issue number 2 is that driving a 4AGE in stock form, like a grandma, is honestly almost impossible, and is really, really boring, because it's a really fun little engine, and all the time it's inviting you to push it harder. Now, when you do the lunacy of a bike carb conversion on a 4AGE, driving it like a grandma is torture. I did it twice, and I actually broke my rule of keeping it below 30% throttle at least 5 or 6 times. And you just gotta do it. The engine sounds nice, and you can just feel there's so much fun in there, and you just push the throttle and you ruin your fuel economy. So if you want economy with this, honestly, I don't know, buy a different car, a different engine, buy a daily driver. I have no idea. This car wants to have fun, and you want to have fun with it, and it's really going to be hard to keep good fuel economy. This is why I say bike carb conversions aren't really the greatest idea for a daily driver. I mean, you can do it, nobody's stopping you, it's your car, but when it comes to financial, sense, it really doesn't make much. But here we have numbers. I was able to get it to 8.4 liters, which is 28 mpg, compared to the stock 33.6. It's actually pretty nice when you consider the fact that carburetors are a, let's say, obsolete design. And this is where bike carbs shine. I've talked to people that did Weber's and other car carburetors on a 4AGE, and they get pretty bad MPG, usually around 11 to 12, on an open road similar to this. And this is the fact that CV carburetors from motorcycles are actually from motorcycles from the years, from 99, 2000, 2001 even. And that's pretty much when the carburetor was coming to an end, and that's when it was at its most advanced stage. And being a constant velocity carburetor, it really does give you a pretty decent MPG when you consider that it's a carburetor. So when it comes to the ignition map, there will be a video on it soon. I'm going to share with you my ignition map, along with the numbers I used for economy at low throttle, and the numbers, at higher throttle openings for better torque and better horsepower. So that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this sort of information. As always, thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to share, like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll be seeing you soon on the D4A channel.